Hola, and welcome to Farming and Foraging for Communities and Climate. My name is Daniela Perez. I am WEA's North America and Pacific Programs Director. Since 2006, WEA has been providing leadership, strategy, and technical training for women leaders to scale their climate and environmental initiatives while connecting them to a global alliance of peers, mentors, and funders. It's so wonderful to be here with you today, creating space for the 2023 US Regenerative Agriculture and Health Accelerator leaders to share how women leaders are working to achieve liberation by decolonizing and healing from the systemic barriers that separate their communities from health and healthy food access, and through farming initiatives and food-based initiatives. So before we dive in, I first want to recognize that while we are gathering virtually today, and while WEA has a global team located around the world, our home office is based in what is currently known as Berkeley, California, in the Bay Area, but is what is also known as Wichin, the ancestral and unceded land of the Ohlone people. And I want to thank our Ohlone relatives for allowing us to call that place home. We recognize that we are on stolen land, and we, as an organization, as community members, have a responsibility to do all that we can to be good guests of these lands and its original stewards. And while land acknowledgements are an important first step, they must always be followed up with action. And we take action by naming the ongoing and normalized colonization of Indigenous lands, by speaking the original name of this land, by collaborating with local Ohlone leaders like Corrina Gould, the spokesperson for the Confederate villages of the Lisjan Ohlone, who, not coincidentally, was also a designer and facilitator in this program, the US Grassroots Accelerator program. And we also practice this value of land acknowledgement and land rematriation through our Shumi land tax, which supports our colleagues at the Sogorea Land Trust as they do the important work of rematriating their land. We do this because we collectively, as an alliance, envision a future that is thriving, sustainable, and also just. To get started today, let's get a sense of who else is in the room with us. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat writing your name, your title, maybe where you're joining us from, and the land where you stand. And as part of practicing this value of land acknowledgements, please feel free to continue sharing in the chat in today's session any resources or ways that you take action to ensure that land is rematriated. And yeah, I really look forward to welcoming you all as you introduce yourselves in the chat, and welcome today's leaders. So with that, I would like to invite US Regenerative Agriculture and Health Accelerator leader LaTasha Timberlake to lead us through a short grounding. During the program, this is how we start each call, almost every week, meeting and allowing our bodies to get grounded and arrive in this moment, to be able to be present and show up in the best way to support each other through our growth. So it is very special for us to invite you into the space that we have so lovingly created for each other. So LaTasha, please take it away.
Greetings, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I want to just start out by first just expressing my gratitude for all of the women leaders that are here today, for WEA, just for all the love that they poured in us today, and for everyone that is extending that love by showing up and supporting us today. So as we prepare and get ready for this exchange, I just want you all to allow yourself just a moment to be present And so by that, wherever you are, just being comfortable as you are, this doesn't have to be anything very formal, but just something that is going to make you feel at ease and feel welcoming. And so as you're doing that, I would like you just to close your eyes and just find your breath just as it is. As we come and go into the day, there are many things that are happening, things that are sometimes in our control, and many times those that are not. But as we prepare for this moment, let's allow ourselves permission. Let's allow ourselves grace just for being here today, being open, taking time out for one another, and just acknowledging your breath just as it is. It may be deep, it may be shallow. The heart still may be racing as you're moving about. But just giving yourself this moment, just as the breath gives us moments throughout our entire life until it's time for us to transition. And today, as we move into this work on farming and foraging for communities and climate, I want to share a meditation with you. It's called A Grain of Rice Contains the Universe. When we look at a grain of rice, 1 second of mindfulness and concentration allows us to see that this grain contains the whole world, the rain, the cloud, the earth, time, space, farmers, everything. Mindfulness and concentration bring insight, and suddenly we can see so much in a grain of rice. It's very quick. Wherever there is mindfulness and concentration, there is insight. When you put that grain of rice into your mouth, you are putting the whole universe in your mouth. This is possible when you stop your thinking. When you chew that grain of rice, just chew. So no thinking will cut you off from this world, wonderful reality. And so as we get ready today to listen to the speakers, let's not allow anything to cut us off from this wonderful reality. This time of togetherness, this time of insight, and this time of love. You may open your eyes. Let's collectively take a deep breath and exhale. And thank you for joining us. Ashe.
Thank you, LaTasha, for that wonderful grounding. I 100% feel more present, and as if now through our presence, we are able to imagine us being in the same room together, holding that grain of rice through our attention. And yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that piece of yourself and sharing it with us. And as we move forward in today's call, I would like to share a little more context for the reason of this call. This year's program is following the backbone of the US Grassroots Accelerator program, a program that we launched in 2019 in partnership with the Sierra Club with the intention to support women leaders all across the US territories. We recognize that, like our counterparts in the global majority, women in the US leading environmental action were underserved in every way. As such, we as key strategy is to provide training, resources, and the collective action and collaboration of a powerful alliance to address barriers that prevent grassroots women leaders from scaling their urgently needed environmental and climate solutions. With that said, we are excited to share a quick video that gives you a closer look at our accelerator model in action. So I will ask Teresa to please share this video now.
We are what make up the global community. It is grassroots. That is where it's always started. That's where it's always begun. So in supporting this, we support the world that we want to create.
This year's leaders are following the legacy of what you just witnessed in this video, of women coming together and transforming each other through presence, through support, through alliance building, through horizontal mentorship, and through the work of our alliance. So I want to share that this year has been particularly special in that as a result of doing some deep listening to our alliance and what is alive for many of our communities, our team recognized the need to take this robust and intersectional US Grassroots Accelerator program, which used to support women across the board in climate action, and really focus it to serve a specific need. So this year's accelerator is different in a way because it has been more sector specific, designed intentionally to draw a circle around regenerative agriculture and health here in the US and US territories. As part of this program, our solution series are designed as spaces for accelerator leaders to share and celebrate their initiatives, campaigns, and sustainable enterprises, exactly what they've been growing and deepening throughout this program, and the way their leadership has shown up as a result of the challenges they're experiencing in their communities. Throughout the programs, leaders have been able to create detailed action plans for their visionary community goals. And we are honored to create this space for these innovative leaders to share with us how their communities are experiencing environmental violence and the solutions they are putting forth to heal and create pathways towards liberation and justice. During today's solution series, we're going to be talking about farming and foraging for communities and climate. And I want to share that as part of our program, we hosted a module on uprooting racism in the food system led by Naima Penniman from Soul Fire Farm, where she shared with us that one of the most important steps you can take into uprooting racism from the food system is to let us use our histories as sparks and catalysts for the change we want to see. And really to think about the question of how to best be of service to meaningful change. How do we come alive in movement making, and what ignites our hope? And so leaders in the program were able to really answer these questions for themselves. And Naima's words are living through the speakers leading this call today. These are the answers to those questions. So without any further ado, I want to introduce our program manager, Kia Leek, to help us moderate the flow between our presenters today. So Kia, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to see your wonderful faces. Thank you so much for joining us to hear from these amazing leaders that I've had the pleasure to get to know over the past few months, even though it feels like so much longer. And so I will pass it on to our first leader, and that will be Bea Alvarez.
Oh, thank you. I'm nerve-wracking being the first one. Here we go. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me. I'm originally from Uruguay, and I grew up in a big city like Buenos Aires, Argentina. I lived in LA for 9 years, what I like to call one of my previous lives now, where the digital world consuming and steering huge disappointment from the narrative that technology will create a better future for us all. And far from it, I found purpose in reconnecting with the land, getting my hands in the soil, in the humble activity of growing food. And by shifting my lifestyle from web developer to soil steward, living intentionally in North County, San Diego. At the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, I started working with a local small farm and resource hub called Food Chef. And our strategy focuses on equitable distribution of fresh produce that is grown ethically, mostly by BIPOC, socially disadvantaged, and beginner farmers, increasing access to healthy food, mobilizing communities by addressing food insecurity in historically neglected neighborhoods, and empowering small farms to thrive and produce quality harvests while addressing climate change. My role as a climate resilience specialist allows me to provide support and assistance to our regenerative farmers. I love working with these farmers. They're the most incredible human beings, passionate about feeding their communities and doing in a way that regenerates the soil and provides nutrition food for those who need it the most. Through our work, we have uncovered an urgent need to measure the impact of carbon farming as a natural climate solution. And we also saw how existing incentive programs like Healthy Soils require a complicated application and reporting process and pay as reimbursement for completed new practices only. So this just doesn't work for most farmers. And last year, we created the first carbon sink incentive pilot, which allows us to incentivize the adoption of carbon farming practices at the point of purchase to 14 farms from our network. Aiming to scale up this successful pilot, we were awarded a USDA's Partnership for Climate Smart Commodities grant. And this September, it's very recent, we launched a Climate Smart Incentive, a 5-year funded program with 2 clear goals: building on farm resilience, using climate smart practices, and establishing market channels that source local food to vulnerable communities. A little bit about FoodShed. In FoodShed, we believe that regenerative farmers are worthy of our investment. Our historically marginalized neighbors are worthy of toxic-free food, We create social justice when we achieve our aims through reparations, cooperation, and mutual aid. And a fair local food system is within our means. This is the work that we do. We also believe that if we want equity and justice, we need to center our food system in our climate conversations. The Healthy Soils is a vital public infrastructure, and investing in building soil increase our resilience. Addressing climate change, the undeniable consensus in the scientific community is that photosynthesis is the most cost-effective natural strategy to draw carbon out of the atmosphere and store it underground in our soil. Carbon increases the water holding capacity, acting like a sponge, especially in this area where we are prone to drought, which encourages more photosynthesis in a positive feedback loop that makes plants, people, and planet healthier. Farmers are natural carbon stewards that can permanently sequester carbon through farming practices called carbon farming. You might also hear regenerative farming or climate smart practices, and all these practices that are validated by NRCS and USDA. We are creating a multifaceted support network that is committed to fighting climate change and restore and rehabilitate the approach to food and farming systems. At the center of our target is soil health. Soil health is the key to a thriving local food system. It is the infrastructure from which a myriad of co-benefits can be cultivated. The world grows 95% of its food in the uppermost layer of soil, making the topsoil one of the most important components of our food system. But due to development and urban sprawl, among other issues, we are losing agricultural land at unprecedented rates. And by using conventional farming practices, nearly half of the most productive soil has disappeared, and soil on US cropland is eroding 10 times faster than it can be replenished. Soils contain approximately 75% of the carbon pool on land, and this is 3 times more than the amount stored in living plants and animals. Therefore, we must link the loss of topsoil to the climate crisis and accelerate the regeneration of healthy soil as a vital climate solution. We also found barriers in our food system. The vast majority of small, beginning, and socially disadvantaged farmers rent their land, which not only creates logistical barriers to participation in existing incentive programs, but also makes assuming the risk of unforeseen cost of implementation unattainable, because they're unlikely to see a long-term return on their investments. Land access is the biggest barrier for new, beginner, and seasoned farmer leasing land. An estimated 400 million acres, more than 40% of US farmland, will change hands in the next decade, as the average age of farmers in the US is 60 to 65 years old. Yet farmers struggle to access land due to the skyrocketing cost and insecure short-term leases. We are dedicated to creating pathways for land access by advocating and collaborating with land trusts, nonprofit organizations, and local government agencies by amplifying the importance of creating opportunities for affordable access to land and infrastructure for farmers of diverse backgrounds, transitioning public land, for instance, agricultural preserves, into local farm trust hands, securing land tenure through the implementation of conservation easements and lease agreements that allow farmers and land stewards to build financial equity through ownership of houses of other infrastructure, supporting farm incubator programs, mentorship, and training for beginner farmers during the first 3 to 5 years operation to ensure that they can successfully launch new green businesses. So we always ask ourselves, what does success look like? If we invest in our local food system, what will our success actually look like? Farmers will have secured land tenure, earning livable wages. Consumers will have the purchasing power to pay fair prices and enjoy meaningful food security. Farmers can also be compensated for the ecological services that they provide. Our regional greenhouse gas mitigation targets will be achieved, and our farms will be more resilient to climate events. Previously underserved neighborhoods will have direct access to local healthful and affordable produce, and food system employees will have agency in the supply chain they operate. We like to say that Foodshed is a movement. We are an opportunity for meaningful and systemic change and a hope for a healthier future. We also said, and we have some stickers that says like food security is a myth if you don't know your farmers. So the message is here to share with everybody. Support your local farmers. Get to know the farmers that are growing food in your Foodshed. And if you want to learn more about our work, you can visit our website, is www.foodshedcooperative.com. And I'm super grateful for Ria to have the opportunity to work with all this amazing group of leaders and share what the work that we're doing and getting more tools to make this work even more efficient for the communities that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ria. Yes, clap, let's do some clap. Sharing all you're doing to feed your communities and make very evident the relationship between food and land and safety in our communities. And so thank you for that. We didn't mention, we will be hold any questions that you have, feel free to hold them, and we're going to encourage you guys to reach out to leaders directly. We didn't mention that at the beginning. And so I'm going to stick that in the chat. But yeah, make sure to hold them and we'll follow up with a resource that you'll be able to plug in with leaders after this call. And so I'd like to pass it on to our next leader, and that'd be Emily.
Aloha, my name is Emily Emmons. I am the co-founder and executive director of Ha'ola Veteran Services. otherwise known as Ho'ola Farms, located in Hilo, Hawaii on the A'apua'a of Kaumana. I am so grateful for your time today and the opportunity to share more about my organization amongst this group of brilliant, innovative leaders doing amazing work in their communities. It is truly an honor to be here today with my sisters. As I mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Ho'ola Farms. Our mission is to provide natural agriculture training and hands-on experiences for military veterans and their families, along with the community, in the hopes of creating a more sustainable future and well-being for all. But I didn't choose this path. I guess you can kind of say the path chose me. In 2007, I met my husband and married my husband, John, who was recently returned from his second combat tour in Iraq with the Army. He was already suffering from severe migraines, which were minimized and misdiagnosed for many years. We didn't fully understand the severity of his injuries until many years later when he was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury, chronic migraines, and PTSD. During that time, I became an advocate and caregiver for John, and we knew that we needed to find purpose for our lives and our new normal as a family. So we started growing a garden in our backyard. Well, everything grows in Hawaii. So as you can imagine, we were very successful growing lots of things, enough that we were able to share it with our friends and family and neighbors. We also found a lot of healing and joy in this process and wanted to find a way to share it with other veteran families. Ho'ola Farms, which means to give life, to revive, or heal in Hawaiian, was founded in 2015 to provide opportunities for veterans and their families to heal, connect, learn, grow, and thrive. But we quickly realized that the community needed to be included, so everyone is welcome. Over the last few years, our programs have grown to support immediate needs within our community in several unique ways. We provide hands-on educational programs such as our Intro to Grow and Groundwork to Grow 1-day and 4-week workshops on a variety of agriculture topics and agribusiness development training such as Master Food Preserver Certificate. We also run a commercial kitchen called the Hilo Food Hub, where farmers and producers are able to turn their raw goods like onions and tomatoes into salsa and sell those to grocery stores, wholesalers, and direct to consumers. In addition, we run our Hawaii Farm to Car, a weekly online farmers market where over 80 local farmers and producers are able to sell directly to consumers. Shoppers place their orders online. We aggregate those orders so that the farmers only harvest and deliver what's already been pre-sold. This means no more waste for farmers. Our market proudly accepts USDA Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP, which allows participants to buy produce with additional benefits to double their purchasing power. We continue to see a rise in our SNAP customer base, breaking down barriers of access for low-income families to buy local food. I'm proud to report that to date, we have sold $143,000 in SNAP sales, which go directly back to our local farmers and producers on Hawaii Island. We continue to see inequality in access to healthy food and non-traditional educational opportunities and hands-on experiences available in Hawaii. This is why we offer a variety of programs and access to hybrid workshops where families are welcome and encouraged to join. My ask of you today is that you will join us with your resources and financial support so that we can continue to empower small-scale farmers and producers to scale up their production, knowing they have market access, continued education, and support provided by our meaningful programs. As a participant in the WIA Accelerator program, I gained leadership skills such as when to speak and when to listen, and that there is deeply rooted knowledge in all of us. I was able to think outside of my box, strategically and with compassion, with other like-minded women leaders, in which we created a safe place together, reminding me yet again that we are really stronger together. I will leave you with my favorite quote from Margaret Mead, which I think best represents my We as Sisters. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Mahalo.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for sharing that, what did you say, the deeply rooted knowledge rooted in you, this whole program right now with everybody here. So thank you, Emily. I'm gonna pass it on to our next leader, LaTasha Timberlake.
Greetings again, everyone. My name is LaTasha Timberlake. I am the Executive Director of Lillian Timber Farms. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization that supports and builds community gardens in underserved neighborhoods. We were established in 2019 as a way to have a voice and empower people in the community in Northeast Oklahoma City that has been stricken with food sovereignty and food insecurity for over 40 years. At that time, the city was doing a lot of, I guess, advocacy in terms of getting food to the area, but not educating. And so one of the ways in which I wanted to show up was to take it back to the land. And I wanted to create experiences where people can come and learn about growing, and specifically in a very sustainable and organic manner. We also work with local schools, neighborhood associations, other farming and composting organizations as well throughout the city. We work with the Sierra Club. We work with Master Gardeners throughout all 29 counties. I think I got it right. 29 counties that are here. But what I love most about the work that I do is that I get to work with everyone. And so when I'm talking about community, I'm not just talking about those that are being directly affected, but I'm talking about the people that drive 30 to 45 minutes to come and volunteer once a month. I'm talking about the politicians that have never gardened in their life, but they come and roll their sleeves up and they bring their kids out. And so for me, when I'm talking about building community and growing, that's what I'm talking about, and utilizing the garden and utilizing food as a hub in terms of bringing people together. I believe the highest vision for this work is for people to understand that there's a self-empowerment that we need to have in terms of our food. I love our slogan, change begins with what you eat, because when you think about what you're putting in your body, you begin to think about who you are. I am known for, I tell people all the time, I'm a spiritual gardener. I'm very intuitive. And so when I'm talking about gardening, I'm not just talking about the soil, but I'm also talking about the soul. And when I'm teaching about in terms of when we need to water vegetation, like, are we watering ourselves? So are we drinking water, and are we being mindful of that process? Are we getting sun when we need it? Are we working with others, just as, you know, plants have companions that they work with as well? And so when I'm thinking about the role that I play in my community and solving some of those challenges, I feel like my role is to take us back to who we are, and that's being people of the earth, and reminding us of that, and understanding that we don't have to give up, you know, the things that we have been accustomed to doing, but we can be more intentional in remembering those things in which we are, in which we have always been, and creating the balance in that. One of the things that I love about participating in this program is the wealth of knowledge that I've gained. My work actually started in the garden, but the project that I'll be working on is actually utilizing other seeds. And I had to really think about how I wanted to pivot that and being mindful and making sure that I'm staying authentic. But not only am I planting seeds in the ground, but I need to also begin to plant things within people who are also seeds. And so this program has done that for me. And so I'll be working on a project where I'm actually working with lawmakers, working with realtors, working with developers, working with city planners, and getting them cognizant of why it's important to understand the land, especially when we begin to talk about development in places, right? So that's another one of the challenges in my community. Not only are we going through this food insecurity and food insecurity, we're also going through what I like to call replacement, but a lot of times it is known as other terms, but people that originally live in a community are now being moved away. And so other people are coming in to now redevelop that community. But I think even in the intention of that being intentional in terms of what are those things we need to make sure that we're cognizant of. And in any time that we're in a place, we need to make sure places are green because we need to breathe, right? So it doesn't matter how cute the home is. It doesn't matter that it has a new design and these businesses are coming. But if we forget that at the end of the day, even when you're building, you're dealing with land. And so us protecting those spaces and being intentional with that. And what the program taught me and left me with is that there's a lot of acts of violence that are happening. And so I got to see that in a different lens. And I got to see it from the space of land and food. And I never looked at it that way in terms of being an act of violence. But when food is not being able to be grown in a healthy manner, being shared, being accessed in a healthy manner, that is something that is directly being violent towards my body, right? And so I will be most grateful for that wealth of knowledge, until I take my last breath. And that's how I see my community being affected, is because if there are not programs like mine and others that, the other sisters that'll be speaking today, and we aren't able to have our voice and voice that, then the entire health of the community diminishes. And specifically with the children, I love that I have the opportunity to work with, we have kids there as young as 10, 12 months old, and they are learning how to seed and learning how to water and just being in joy and figuring things out, for the first time. And then we have our elders that come out, my grandmother's 90 years old, and so, she's out there in this space, and we're all working, collaboratively and collectively. And when I think about like the next level, the next level is really in terms of the spirit that this work leaves behind, and those that come after me, what that may look like, and being open to urban gardening, not necessarily being named urban gardening anymore, but just gardening, because it doesn't matter where the place is. There's always going to be soil. There's always going to be sand. There's always going to be rain. There's always going to be sun. And so no matter where we are, no matter what that vegetation may look like, right, it's a collective. And so, my prayer is always that when we go into spaces, that we are mindful that it's a collective space for everyone, and that there's always going to be an exchange. So peace and blessings. I thank you all for, taking the time to listen today. And I just pray that whatever it is that is in your heart's desire, that you continue to water that and allow it to bloom.
Thank you so much, LaTasha, for that prayer and for that blessing, because educating communities about the land is just as important as getting food to the people. And so thank you for your work and for sharing it with us. And next, I'd like to pass it on to Michelle.
Hafide, buenas, todos hamzu, guahusi Michelle Crisostomo, sumasagazu gita guahan e familia and gualofenzu. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Michelle Crisostomo. I live here on the beautiful island of Guam, and I'm from the Chamorro family clan Gualofan, which in our native language means full moon. And I am the president and co-founder of a nonprofit organization called Guahan Sustainable Culture, which was established in 2019 with a mission rooted in a very strong passion for cultivating one's own food and dedication to sustainability and a strong commitment to supporting local agriculture and our local food systems. And in the work that I do for Guahan Sustainable Culture, our vision is to see an island where our people are proficient in cultivating their own food and where our land, air, and seas are sustained for future generations. And food sovereignty is our primary focus. So within that focus, there are 3 pillars: educate, cultivate, and nourish. And with Educate, we run active summer and after-school programs for elementary and middle school students. We host workshops for children and adults teaching various ways how to cultivate their own food. We have built school gardens in 10 different schools on the island. And we've developed and maintained 3 community gardens that serve as educational facilities used for field trips, volunteer work, and just for the community to come together and learn together. And with Nourish, our harvests from our gardens are donated to families in need. We run programs that help farmers get their local produce to market in the community through an online store. And then we look for funding to help get weekly produce bags into the hands of less fortunate people in our community. And that is done 3 times a week, 1 week dedicated specifically to cancer patients. And so on Guam, it's not a very large island, and on average, 1 person is diagnosed with cancer every day. So we have a population of about 170,000, and we're only 210 square miles. And overall, cancer is the 2nd leading cause of death on Guam, which the first is heart disease. And so as a consequence of colonial history, Guam has become more reliant on imported foods, often processed, less nutritious than the traditional staples. And this shift in dietary patterns has been linked to health issues like obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. And the disruption of traditional food systems not only has affected our physical health, but has also contributed to a sense of cultural loss and disconnection. And so just to give a little background, Guam is a very strategic place for the US military. And so they have taken 49,000 acres of land on Guam, which is roughly 1/3 of our island. There's a large naval base with many different installations on the island. We have an Air Force base, and now over $8 billion being invested into relocating 5,000 Marines from Okinawa to Guam. They're building right now 5 live fire training ranges, dangerously close to the primary source of our island's drinking water, so the Northern Aquifer. And then moreover, the complex that they're building to house these military folks that are coming is situated over several historically and culturally significant sites. They're destroying over 1,000 acres of native limestone forest that functions as essential habitat for several endangered endemic species. And this is happening over the objection of thousands of our island residents. And so the military presence has led to significant environmental issues, including contamination of land and water. The activities such as storing and using hazardous materials has contributed to environmental degradation, which is impacting the health of our population. And Guam and the Chamorro people, we have a very rich history of traditional agriculture and a deep connection to our land. And historical colonialism and this more recent economic development has led to changes in land use patterns. which are not only affecting our ecosystem, but it's displaced indigenous and traditional farming communities. It's disrupted the intergenerational transfer of farming knowledge, and the disruption of traditional land use has led to a loss of our cultural practices, decline of our traditional farming methods, has diminished access to traditional food sources, and now there's a shift away from sustainable and culturally embedded practices. And so with these colonial practices, including the displacement of our indigenous communities like the Chamorros, it's resulted in disconnection from our ancestral knowledge, our identity associated with agriculture. Traditional farming and fishing practices often involved communal efforts and shared responsibilities. And so there was this breakdown of these practices due to these changes, which contributed to a weakening of our community bonds. And so the loss of communal activities around food production has led to a sense of isolation and impacted the social fabric of our community. And so I do this work because I am committed to preserving the cultural traditions and fostering self-sufficiency in our community. Growing up, my Chamorro grandmother shared stories with me of self-sufficiency, but somewhere along the way, these cultural practices were lost. And so my passion is rooted in connecting with my heritage, reviving these lost traditions, and imparting essential skills onto my children. And so through this work, I want to bring the community together through local food, spark excitement, inspire people to locally grow their own produce. And this journey is about empowering individuals to embrace self-sufficiency, connect with our roots, and nurture a thriving community. And also, in light of the health challenges that I was facing back in 2018, I discovered that there is a transformative power in food and nutrition. And so cultivating my own food became a source of healing, emphasizing the importance of knowing what is going into your body. And so I'm really grateful for this cohort and this project that I'm able to pursue. My project is focusing on highlighting healthier, culturally significant foods that have been overshadowed by processed carb options in the mainstream grocery stores and restaurants. And the foods I chose to focus on are breadfruit, which in Chamorro we call lemai. It is actually the logo of Guam Sustainable Culture. It is the tree that is in my background here. And then the second one is taro, which we call suni, and yam, which in Chamorro is known as dogu. And I chose these because of their cultural significance. So the breadfruit trees are abundant on Guam. They have been a major source of sustenance for the Chamorro people. And the tree not only provides starchy fruit, but it's a dietary staple. The leaves are used for various purposes, food wrapping and thatching. It's often prepared in many different ways, including baking, roasting, boiling, and it's a very important part of our Chamorro cuisine. And suni, taro, another essential crop in Chamorro culture. The starchy corms of the taro are used in various traditional dishes. Not only is it a dietary staple, but we use it in Chamorro rituals and ceremonies. And then dogu or yam is also very significant in our diet. And the tuberous root vegetable is cultivated and consumed in various ways, including boiling, roasting, and mashing. And so like breadfruit and taro, yam is an important source of carbohydrates and nutrients for the Chamorro people. And so these crops are not only vital for the sustenance, but are deeply woven into our Chamorro cultural practices and traditions. And the connection between the Chamorro people and these crops highlights their historical and sustainable relationship to the land. So I really wanted this project to raise awareness about the ancient Chamorro people's energy sources, their cultivation methods, the cultural importance, preparation and health benefits, all of which have been obscured by highly processed foods. And so some of the activities of the project include focusing on cultural preservation and education. So having workshops and educational sessions for the community that focus on the historical significance, the cultivation and the traditional uses of these crops. And then also nutritional awareness and health promotion. So providing the nutritional education and highlighting the health benefits of the culinary versatility of the Lemai, Suni, and Dagu, and emphasizing their traditional value and role in promoting a balanced and healthier diet. And then the third activity is a culinary event and recipe sharing. So hosting a culinary event that showcases the diverse culinary applications of these crops and encouraging the community to participate in recipe sharing and creating a repository of traditional and innovative recipes. So in the end, I want to produce and distribute a cookbook, which is filled with recipes. It's accompanied by stories that reflect our cultural heritage and the importance of these crops. And so the Guam community is grappling with these challenges, these health challenges in particular, as traditional carbohydrate sources are replaced by the nutrient deficient store-bought options. And so there's a crucial need to educate about the cultural and health significance of these crops, as the decline of our food system poses a threat to our food sovereignty and security in this region. So in closing, I want to leave you with a vision, and it's a vision of a vibrant, resilient Guam, where our people are not just consumers, but cultivators of their own sustenance. Guam Sustainable Culture strives to empower our community through education, cultivation, and nourishment, and fostering a deep connection to our cultural roots. And so by supporting these initiatives, you're contributing to the preservation of our cultural heritage, the well-being of our community, the sustainability of our island, and you're cultivating a future where food sovereignty is not just a goal, but it's a living reality for every Chamorro and resident on Guam. So Sejus Ma'asi, and thank you to Ria for allowing me to be a part of this amazing cohort. And thank you to everyone who joined today for listening and allowing me to share my passion and this project with you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing this amazing vision that you have. And before moving on to the next leader, I want to do a little bit of a recap and just share with you all some things that I'm observing that are being shared. All of the women in today's call are growing food, but I would describe their work with so many other layers. It is revolution, it is love, it is liberation, it is justice, all alongside growing food. And this reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Vandana Shiva that says, "The time has come to reclaim the stolen harvest and to celebrate the growing and giving of food as the highest gift and the most revolutionary act." Listening to these leaders, I am reminded of the power of growing food and how this will transform communities. And so thank you so much for continuing listening. I just wanted to give you all a little bit of a break so that we can refocus and listen to our next speaker, which I'm going to invite now to take it away. So we have Phoebe Gooding joining us to share a little bit about her vision.
Thank you, Daniela, and everybody for being here this evening. My name is Phoebe Gooding, and first and foremost, I am a mother of two beautiful boys. I'm also a farmer, and I steward an organic urban farm with my husband, Hector, called Hawksnest Healing Gardens. We are located on the ancestral and present lands of the Occaneechi and Tuscarora peoples in what is also known as Durham, North Carolina. My off-farm job, like many of us small farmers have, is that I work for a nonprofit called Toxic Free NC as a program and organizing director. In this role, I get to host our Women of Color Farmers Network, which since 2021 has supported 35 members forging a path toward a self-determined future in which women of color who have long carried the traditional knowledge of growers and nurturers can prosper as they deserve from working with the land. And by centering those who for too long stewarded the land without acknowledgement, we can begin to undo the racist and unjust harms of our current agricultural system and expand regenerative agricultural practices that advance social, environmental, economic, and climate justice. At Hawksnest Healing Gardens, we are BIPOC farmers growing for our collective liberation. Our farm was birthed holding the principles of food sovereignty and self-determination forefront, with a vision of healing our bodies, the land, and our communities through practices of reciprocity with all that surrounds us. We started stewarding the farm and land in 2020, and we never refer to the land as property because women in the earth are not property. And as my husband always says, that we belong to the land and not the other way around. At Hawk's Nest, we are growing food for our community. We host events and workshops. We have a rental space in our converted garage and recently received a grant so that we may offer the use of the space to community members for free. This is one way that we are opening the land to the community. And another way we are creating land access is through our community farming group. We open up garden beds on our farm for community members to grow food alongside us. We're growing together, exchanging knowledge, and building community. Of course, since healing is in the name of our farm, we center this in all aspects of what we do. We hold a monthly community temazcal, or sweat lodge ceremony, as one way we can offer opportunities for healing. And another way we're working towards healing is through our Farmers and Friends Mexico immersions. The immersion is a week-long trip to Valle de Bravo, Mexico, that focuses on food sovereignty, climate justice, and alliance building. My husband and I are from Mexico and the US, respectively, and we feel firsthand the othering that the US government has used as a way to keep us separate from our relatives in the South. It is important for us to build bridges across the border and create opportunities for people to meet each other, exchange knowledge, and build power for systems change. Participating in the Women's Earth Alliance Accelerator program has allowed me to focus on strengthening our Farmers and Friends Mexico Immersion program. Around the world, the increase of industrial corporate agriculture is leading to the loss of small farms, is driving climate change, and is contributing to diet-related illness. The system produces food that lacks nutrient value, is full of toxic chemicals, and corners the market, driving down opportunities for small and peasant farmers to make a livable wage. Some of the greatest challenges for food sovereignty in Mexico is the commercialization of agriculture, limited access to land, and the decrease in the demand for local markets due to imported and subsidized food being given preference. Sound familiar? Fortunately, there are many farmers growing organically in their traditional practices and working together to establish and maintain access and control of local markets. During the immersion, we tour organic farms and hear firsthand from farmers who are part of a 17-farm cooperative working towards food sovereignty. And we also visit the wintering grounds of monarch butterflies in the Piedra Errada Sanctuary. Due to habitat destruction and climate change, the monarch is now listed on the IUCN Endangered Species List. Because of conventional agriculture and increased use of synthetic pesticides in the US, the monarch butterflies struggle to reach their wintering grounds in Mexico, where deforestation is reducing their sanctuary size. The community that protects their butterfly relatives are doing all they can to chase illegal loggers and cut back invasive species, but they can't protect the butterflies if they don't even make it to the forest in the first place. The monarch butterflies show us that we cannot do this work in a bubble, and we all need to come together and demand policies that protect Mother Earth and all of her children. This is why we travel as a cohort of like-minded people, so that we can build lasting relationships and connections amongst ourselves and the people we meet in Mexico. We have introduced people on the trip who literally live down the street from each other and never, ever met before. And we've seen cohort members partner on initiatives. We travel as a cohort because solving issues like food sovereignty and climate change can feel daunting when we feel we are the only ones who care. And separation is a tactic of the oppressor to keep us in a mindset of feeling helpless and hopeless. When we come together, we are powerful. So I'm going to share my screen to show you a few pictures of this truly magical experience. Let's see. Start here and go into slideshow. I hope you enjoyed those pictures. And just wanted to say that through the Women's Earth Alliance Accelerator, we are launching a BIPOC scholarship to break down the financial barrier for folks to take part in this magical experience. You can donate today through our PayPal link and write in BIPOC scholarship so that we can get as many folks funded as possible for upcoming immersions. So please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hawks Nest Healing Gardens. Visit our website, hawksnesthealinggardens.com, to learn more about the farm and the trip so you can join us in 2025.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. As you build bridges and take down barriers. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Ria, our next leader.
Thank you so much, Kia, and thank you, Phoebe. That was beautiful. Hi, everyone. My name is Ria. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I to be honored to be like Ferry being here. So I'm the founder of Rumah Kitchen. Rumah means home to me in Indonesia, in Bahasa Indonesia. And I also work in a nonprofit organization called Soul Fire Farm. Soul Fire Farm is Afro-Indigenous Center community farm committed to uprooting racism and ceding sovereignty in the food system. In here, I present through my kitchen to be like, want to share our vision. So Rumah Kitchen is starting to start 2017. 2017. The first story that I want to share is the first time I got in America was walking into the grocery store, and I saw a lot of like pile of so much food. It was just, I never seen in my life so much food in a grocery store like that. And I'm like, wow, I didn't see, like, never imagined in my life seeing the chicken and all of that, and like the breast and everything just piling up in there. And made me think that how much people eat. And then I do come back to where I come from, Indonesia, in the village, that when we want to eat something, we always think that I will talk to my mom, talk to my dad, like we have to planning something that, okay, if you want to eat some chicken, we have to organize. So my brother will capture the chicken, or like we process chicken something, or if you want to eat something, we will have to talk to the farmer, or like go to the farmer, like collecting on foraging the food. And today we're talking about farming and foraging and climate. So that moment I was like, wow, this is very convenient to like walking in and have everything ready for you as long as you have money. So I was like, end up just thinking, how is this possible? And then I do research, and then I start working at Soul Fire Farm, where there's issue. That was the first time that I really stood up and aware to, like, in United States, there's a food waste, a lot of food waste. And there's a lot of also people like live in food appetite, like don't have access to like fresh vegetable, fresh food, like especially like I now live in Mohican Territory land, as not like Grafton, New York. And there's a lot of people that don't have access fresh food in here. So the issue that I want to bring here, and also the dream, the vision, is Rumah Kitchen show up, like I build this, the founder with my partner, with my team, with my friends, is because we want to reduce the food waste that would happen in here in our local community. As the statistics was saying that every 25%, everything that food that grow is end up in landfill. And 2018 alone is over 63 million tons of food waste were generated in commercial, institutional, or like end up in not being compost or like not being processed, but still people face hunger. And So where I come from is just thinking about how we educate people to eat seasonal food, how we share this knowledge that to prevent food waste, it can help the climate change. And Women Earth Alliance like taught me doing this like training and all that we face is I learned a lot how to like combine all my vision and all my goals to help our community to face this problem, because one of the issue that we have is like we have the food, but we don't know how to kind of processing it, prevent it from food waste, or people don't know how to access it. So in Ruma Kitchen, we have the pop-up dinner and safe space to educate people eating seasonal food, using the local ingredients and foraging Skillshare, and also learning about food preservation. Oftentimes people think like food preservation is like just frozen or like eating chemical, and that is very not good for especially women with like have this side effect for their body. And so the Ruma Kitchen, we built this education for sharing the knowledge how to preserve the food using fermentation, using the ancient way to like preserve, extending life of the harvest. So it's for farm to table and to reduce the food waste that we've been dealing, and also educating people to grow their own food from like, even if they don't have the space for land, and they can also learning how to do forage. So I am standing to like become a bridge to educate people to like, yes, we can prevent this food waste by preservation. We can know what is our local food to cook it together, and also giving the relationship. One of the series that I do in Ruma Kitchen, we do like pop-up dinner series that relations with the local farmer. So every month we do like pop-up dinner series in the farmer. For example, in a local farmer mushroom, we call it Color City mushroom, and they grow mushroom, and we collaborated together to this ancestor food, but using Northeast ingredient. So we still have connecting with our ancestor food, but using substitution to make this food is delicious. I always think that eating seasonal food and educated to people, especially chef, because my background, I've been a chef since 2013, and now I'm a farmer at Solvaya Farm. But also connecting those together, it really helped the environment and the people to consume what is like local food and make it into delicious, and also connecting with our ancestor story. I always say, like, as an immigrant in this country, it is very hard to find the ingredients, what I want to cook for my food, for my ancestor food, but it is, to me, having access to the land or having access to know the farmer, it allows us to talk about, I want to grow this food. I want to grow on this certain pepper so I can make this certain curry. But also like knowing what is growing in local where we live, it's also educating us to be knowing this substitution. For example, Indonesia, we have we call this cassava. Cassava leaves, it cannot grow in upstate New York. It only can grow in tropical, unless we have this like greenhouse. But we're not trying to think that. But we're trying to think that how is it like the taste of this our ancestor food can make it into what I food like I have in here. So kale and cassava leaf, it has this similar taste, but like texture, and we can cook it the technique that that we have from our ancestor. And that is the education that I pass on to local people, knowing their grassroots, knowing their story of their food and connecting with their ancestor, but also knowing what is growing in local and knowing like what is your farmer, like talking to the farmer and or going to like volunteer in a local farmer. So that is one of the Ruma kitchen, that vision and what we are doing right now. And also one of the struggle that I've been facing is like, I have this series of pop-up dinner to invite people to come and educate, but we stumble upon like how we do like giving a free ticket to people who cannot afford this to join the dinner. But and the other side, we so connecting with the farmer, and to see that it's always expanding into another challenging, which is like, I want to able to support a woman in our local community, whereas is the bridge between people who have the capacity to come farming, but they have like, they're not able to have that room because the self-care is not there for them. For example, when I was having my kid, I am a mother of 5 years old. 2018, I am struggling because I was alone raising like my kid when I dealing with postpartum. So that time, I'm coming from Indonesia. They were like everything like big community that in my family, especially in South Sulawesi, we allow women to have their moment, to like repair themselves from like postpartum and to just heal themselves, heal after giving birth or like all of that. And there's a community. But what I see in here in the United States, like especially in where I am right now, it's the community is sometimes it's like in the wrong word people to use it. Like we need to come together. But the moment I was that time is I see like the 9 to 5 people not able to recover fully, but they have to go back to work. They have to go back to work, and they also have to do this. So my vision is Ruma kitchen. I would love to, like, Ruma means home and kitchen. So we want to have this space for, especially for women and farmer, and for especially for postpartum women to come in this space to taking care of themselves and also connect with the nature, connect to growing. Like we have a garden for them to come in and just be enjoying the nature, because that's one way to heal your body and one way to heal your mental and your like postpartum. It's like it's just connecting with your baby. So what we want to do is to give a room and space for this, especially for a woman who like with like postpartum and come just to stay there. In my village, 40 days, you're not allowed to do anything rather than just to make yourself happy. But I see in here, it's like 9 to 5, you have to go back to work. You have to take care of yourself, to take care of your baby. But for me, that time, I do not want to other women experience the same way like that. I want women to be taken care of and someone cooking them food from like literally from the next step of the garden in right there, and then carrying them and giving the food that we grow in the soil to create more like the youth coming in there to learn about preservation. And because what I see nowadays is there's many youth that coming to our farm. They don't even know, they don't have connection with the food that they eat. Some kid will think like, oh, I didn't know the chicken lay eggs. I didn't know that the eggs come this chicken. I didn't know this is how the plant grow. So that is a very disconnection from us and plant and our food and the farmer. So for me, being in this cohort, it really opens my dream and my vision to want to make this happen, especially the spa house that I want to build for, especially for women and farmer, to taking care of them. Because as we know that we are a woman too, it's a bridge, it's a big change for our food system in this country. I'm just very, very deep grounding for myself to be building a dream that, especially for my kid and for other kid, for another young generation, see the farming and connecting with your own food is very, very important. And as a global community, we are at the crossroad, feeding our growing population, supporting our community's health, and sustaining the natural resources and land we depend on will require a shift toward a small scale. And this is a small scale, small garden, small farmer, and just a space that for women, for everybody to just feel safe in that and have a home to create their own food also. Because
Ria?
Yes.
Sorry, Shalosha on time, so we have to.
I'm sorry. I'm keep going. I didn't see the time. I was just in touch. And thank you so much. So I'm closing this. To support me, you can come to my website at Rumah Kitchen website and the Instagram Ria Kitchen Magician. And thank you so much. Oh, that's my daughter. Bye. Thank you.
She's so cute. You're about to give us the whole sermon. I was like, and she's the whole sermon. So please go connect with Ria. We will include her info and follow up. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Sarah.
Okay. Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you everybody for taking the time to be here and to learn with us today. My name is Sarah, and I'm a generational fisherwoman like my mother and father before me. I've been participating in Alaska's sustainable small boat fisheries my entire life, and for the past 2 decades, I've been selling a portion of my wild-caught seafood directly to professional chefs and home cooks across the nation. You can find that online at copperriverfishmarket.com. Today, I'm going to share with you a peek into the world of seafood production and how the simple choice of which fish to have for dinner has a far-reaching effect. Seafood has always been an important part of my life. I was born and raised in an isolated fishing village in remote coastal Alaska. Surrounded by snow-capped mountains, ice-blue glaciers, and crystal-clear rivers spilling out to an untouched shoreline that borders pure ocean waters. This is the spectacular backdrop I was born into, and thankfully it still exists today. Both my mom and my dad fished, each of them independently owning and operating their own boats. My mom was comfortable and competent with engine and gear repairs and fished on her own boat alone, back when women weren't even allowed to have a credit card in their name without a male co-signer. And that actually wasn't that long ago. As a young child, there were little tasks that were expected of me and my sister while out on a fishing trip, posing off the deck after we hauled our catch aboard or pitching fish onto ice. As we got older, we became more useful and our wages increased. By age 14, I had a full crew share and full workload to go with it. Independence was instilled in me from an early age, and by 16, I was living on my own and adulting my way through life. Fast forward to today, quite a few years later, and I continue to work in Alaska's small boat fisheries. My life partner is, of course, a fisherman, and our lives and livelihoods revolve around the run timing of local fish stocks. Similar histories are shared by thousands of fishing families across the country, From Alaska to Alabama, the culture of small boat fishing families carries over. Fishermen and women, like me, take pride in providing a nutrient-rich food source to the public. And although seafood is frequently consumed in the US, there is not much awareness of the story behind the fish on our plates. Conscientious eaters might be familiar with terms like heritage breed, cage-free, and antibiotic-free feed when discussing livestock, and also knowledgeable of the need for fair trade prices to be paid to farmers and ranchers. Consumers widely acknowledge these values as something that large-scale food systems should aspire to. Yet the same considerations are not often applied when making a seafood purchase. There are two main designations when it comes to buying seafood: wild caught and farm raised. But there are some misconceptions about wild seafood, and its benefits can be overlooked. Wild caught seafood is healthier than farmed because wild fish eat like pro athletes for optimum health and performance so that they can thrive while traveling vast distances in the ocean. While domestically caught wild seafood offers immense health benefits, high in numerous vitamins and minerals, a good source of protein, and full of healthy omega-3 fats, which protect against heart disease, strokes, cancer, and so many other things. Often people won't take this into consideration. In the wild, also slight yet very important genetic differences occur in each fish species. These variances protect the ocean ecosystem in times of stress brought on by changing ocean conditions. When some fish may perish, others will adapt or migrate. These survivors will continue to fulfill their natural role in a complex ocean food chain, supporting numerous varieties of sea life and coastal predators too. In stark contrast to the diversity of a natural environment, the massive industrial aquaculture projects commonly referred to as farm-raised fish. Farm-raised fish are confined from activity and fed a fattening diet that is not their targeted food source. Feed pellets have coloring, antibiotics, and other medications added. These are all present in the final product and pose a health concern for consumers. They replicate the problems of crowded feedlots found on shore. Most often, fish are grown as a monoculture with only a single gene line. They're overcrowded and crammed together. They become infested with flesh-eating lice and other microbes that just are not appetizing. The unnatural concentration kills off the ocean floor beneath and spreads disease. Sadly, these feedlot style of production have grown and now surpass wild fish consumption in the US. Some countries have banned the practice, and others have proposed an environmental tax of 40% on the corporations to offset the harm caused in their countries. Maybe you've heard that farmed fish are saving our oceans and feeding the world. With billions of dollars in annual revenue, their advertising budget for pro-industry messaging has reached far. Many well-intentioned seafood eaters are falsely being led to believe that farmed fish is a savior, not the menace that it is. It takes an average of 5 pounds of wild fish to produce 1 pound of farmed fish. I can't even. With this ratio, world hunger is not being curbed and our natural ocean ecosystem is suffering. Wild fish are the last widely available forage food on our planet. Unlike every other large-scale food source, wild-caught seafood is not owned by corporations. In most instances, wild seafood is brought to shore by families or small crews that own and operate their own micro businesses. We are not the owners of the wild seafood we pursue. Instead, we fulfill the key role of providing the public with access to a natural and unaltered healthy protein. In recent years, the US seafood supply chain has shifted so much that it no longer supports fishing families like mine. The industry model that we fishermen had depended on for generations just no longer exists. For fishers to thrive, once again, change is needed. In searching for what this change might be, I reached out to fishers in different regions of the country, and what I discovered was that we all had similar pain points, regardless of our location. Market consolidation had diminished sales channels to at times just a single commodity buyer that would simultaneously offer starvation wages to fishers while raising prices for consumers. An influx of cheap imported seafood produced with toxic additives and in some instances, even slave labor was being gobbled up by an uninformed public. This realization led me to advocate on behalf of our fishing communities. I reached out to lawmakers about food policy initiatives, coastal infrastructure planning, and gender equity issues. I've been out of the box thinking in an effort to uplift the coastal communities I care so deeply about. Much like what happened when mom and pop farming and ranching operations were displaced by large-scale agriculture, our open oceans are being leased and privatized, excluding access to this resource by hindering small boat fisher foragers and subsistence gatherers. These points are just the tip of the iceberg. But let's not focus on what is wrong. Let's instead focus on how we can make it right together. If you are a lover of seafood, participating in a more just and equitable seafood supply chain is totally possible. I'd love to help you eat with the ocean ecosystem and not against it. Changing the trajectory of a food system is a big deal and requires a cultural shift, but I think we can do it together. And I'm excited to mention here first, drumroll, that we will be launching a new initiative that will provide seafood lovers with a direct connection to a diverse group of independent small boat seafood producers. And I'm asking you to join us to help uplift US fishing families, but also so that you can feel confident that with every meal, you're casting a vote for food being produced in alignment with your values. Vote with your dollars. There will be a link, and please sign up. And as soon as we get that rolled out, which will be a little bit later this winter, we'd love to have some support and just spread what we're doing. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for sharing, Sarah. Yes, and both of her links are in the chat, her website and the link to her Google one. And next, I'd like to pass it on to Tashanda. We have Tashanda next.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Okay. First of all, after listening to all my WIA sisters, I am thrown off of my, what I thought I wanted to talk about and say. And I literally had to turn my camera off because I have cried through every single person's presentation. And I wanted to start, I had a way I was going to start, but disclaimer, if I start crying in the middle of mine, don't worry. It's all really good, happy tears. I think when you do this work, sometimes it feels like you're in a silo, right? And you do such good work where you are, but look at all the different places these women are coming from. And when Phoebe showed her pictures, I was like, that looks like work right here in Los Angeles. And these smiles look like smiles that I see when we do this work. And so, my tears are tears. It hits me in my gut. I'm so happy. And the words that, my WIA sisters have spoken are words I don't have to repeat because they said it so eloquently. But I do want to take the moment to personally thank everyone, especially because we're over time, for sticking with us. Al and I are the last. And so thank you for sticking with us. And also just to spin this space to thank my WIA, what I would consider family now. This was a genuine experience. And I think that I'm so privileged to have had it. And so I hope you feel as inspired through tears as I do. I mean, it could be a little menopause too, TMI, but All right, so I want to introduce myself in a way that I was reminded of during my time here in WIA. But not what I do, but who I am coming to this work. I am a first-generation American born to people of Carib descendant and West African descendant. My family is from the West Indies. I was born in Brooklyn, which is a Lenape tribe land, and raised in my fundamental years in Seattle, which is Suquamish and Duwamish land. And I have called home and raised my family in Los Angeles, California, where I currently reside on Tongva and Chumash land. And on all of these lands, because of how I was raised, my bare soles of my feet have touched the soil. I have eaten the soil. I have bathed in the soil. And I mention these things because they speak to the intrinsic knowledge that I have learned to understand, that I've carried with me through all of these spaces that I've been. I am also a mama of 4. My youngest is 17. He's a senior in high school. And I say that every chance I get, because with the excitement of getting my 4th child through K through 12 education, I also have realized while I've had this time with Ria, that I am going through a huge transitional shift in my life. I have spent my adulthood as a woman being a mother. And it's that transition is a transition I feel that our planet is also taking, right? And so in this transition, it's aligned me with this Ria family. And I have had this pull within my soul my entire life of purpose. And I know that my purpose is attached to land. And beyond that purpose, it is education. And so I come to this work as an educator. I work for a charter organization called Environmental Charter Schools, where I am the environmental program specialist. I handle all things environmental, specifically literacy, when it comes to connecting our youth and our communities to the hows and whys of environmental issues. And so the work that I have done is leading to the work that I want to do personally. I am cultivating land with children, but as LaTasha mentioned, cultivating land and teaching people how to do it is not enough. And I find that my work also includes cultivating minds and hearts. And so I want to take you, I'm going to share a couple of slides that will help, guide what I want to share about how that work looks and how I want that work to continue and how that work is showing up in all of my Ria sisters' work, which is what made me cry. So Environmental Charter Schools is a network of 4 schools that are located in the south areas of Los Angeles. We have 2 middle schools and 2 high schools. Before moving into this role of a specialist, meaning that I get the opportunity to work across our organization, I spent 9 years in the classroom teaching a course called Green Ambassadors at our middle school in Inglewood, California. Now, all of our schools are based in communities that have historically been underserved, communities that are in food deserts, and communities in which are not connected to nature as a whole. And so I have always, with that purpose, I've always kind of felt in the pit of my stomach. My journey hasn't always manifested in a way where that purpose has shined. When I found ECS, I found a village and a tribe of like-minded people. And if they weren't quite there yet, their minds and hearts were open. And so within that space, I was able to grow in my purpose and implement a lot of environmental programming that has allowed students, their families, and our greater community to engage and connect more explicitly with nature. Now, some of the things that I think are super important, or I think like an essential question I ask myself in this work continuously is, how do you change someone's behavior? Because I believe that in my life where I am transitioning, where I am in a paradigm shift of what my life will look like, again, our planet is also in that paradigm shift of what it has been and what it will be. And it will not look and feel the same way it did when I was a young child playing in the soil in Seattle. And so with that, I had to keep in mind as an educator, as I'm teaching children things like how to cultivate soil, how to build compost, what is an abiotic and biotic factor. I also realized that that literacy had to transition into a behavioral change. And some of the challenges that I knew I would face, but that I did not realize would be that boulder I was constantly pushing up a hill, was mindsets. And again, in the communities in which we serve in my organization, mindsets are important, because mindsets, no matter what I'm teaching them, is what's going to drive their behaviors. And I found that a value system was a great place to start. What do we value? What are the things that we're truly valuing? And how can I teach kids to identify true value and the things that they love and the things that they are doing to connect them to Earth? And ultimately, if we all think about the things we value in life, they can all be drawn back to Earth and resources. And so in the work that I'm doing, I come from a scientific background. So I teach an environmental science type of course or content. That's my focus. And gardening, urban farming is part of that work. Not only am I teaching children, parents, other educators, how to make those connections from the classroom to being outside of the classroom, I'm also teaching them to identify where behavioral changes can happen. And those behavioral changes are only happening when people get the opportunity to practice the skills, understand the whys of the hows. And so one way that I do this work, because it is encompassing, because there are lots of environmental issues. And again, in an environmental movement, there are so many siloed interests and passions for people that oftentimes we forget to collaborate across those boundaries and really do this work like Earth does her work. There are boundaries that are interchangeable. There are boundaries that share. And so when I teach and when I am reaching out to communities around the work that I'm doing on food sovereignty, there's a framework that I find really helps. And the framework comes from California Environmental Literacy Initiative. There are several frameworks on how to do the work, particularly educating in this space. But I bring this up because if there is anyone out there who is interested in networking within this space or just learning more, it's a really great, within California, a great resource. They're also a great, not great, but they are not one of their own kind. You can see this in other states, kind of a blueprint of what Cali has done. And so I am very involved in their equity work. I am very involved in their environmental literacy work as it pertains to TK through 12. And I take that work outside of the school setting. And what we have been allowed to do by using some of those frameworks and by connecting with our communities is connect with partners who are like-minded. And so I wanted to showcase one particular partner, mainly because this partner was a relationship that brought me to WIA. And so it's dear to me because of the amazing work we have been able to do together. But also because I was able to be introduced to this fellowship through that partnership. The Bay Foundation is an organization in California that has traditionally done work around water and water quality and ocean education and stormwater runoff. And quite a few years ago, I was approached to introduce a program at my school where we were looking at closing the loop around food waste. And the idea was to take food waste from community restaurants that were surrounding our schools and compost it on our school site, turn it into soil and grow food that we could give back to those restaurants, the same food that they were bringing to us. This we are probably in the 7th, 8th year of this program that has reached from 1 campus all the way to 4 campuses. And I've also had the opportunity to share this information and help other school sites do this work. We call it our Table to Farm program. From this program, and this is the connection that I'm talking about, it's the how to take a waste that we consider a waste and turn it into a valuable resource while sequestering carbon, while being part of the water cycle, while teaching children what it takes to be regenerative in the work that we do. And then at the end, we get to produce food to give away to others. And along with that, I think the very important part, although that program is mind-blowing and it is super important where we are, but I think the biggest takeaway from that program is the actionable movement that happens with our students. When kids, and I think we all know this, when kids have the opportunity to get their hands in soil and understand what's happening and then given the space to practice it and then take action beyond it on their own, you change behaviors. And so we are creating and showing what a closed loop system can look like. And my babies in this organization and those who have been impacted because of it outside of my organization are taking solutionary actions as youngsters. Now, the work that I've done with WIA, I've had some unintended gifts. I had goals when I started this, professional goals. I'm going to meet some amazing women. I'm going to network. I'm going to figure out what I want to do because I've had these ideas in my head based on what I've done as an educator. And I would consider anything that I'm going to do is going to land in the space of environmental literacy. And so this is a mission statement from a project that I've been working on for years, and it has manifested itself in very different pockets of ways, and it is still evolving. Being part of WIA has showed me ways that it's going to evolve from what I originally thought it was going to be when I first started. And when I say that environmental issues are wicked complex situations, some people will say the solutions are simple. And I would say, yes, as a one solution, it is simple. But listen to all of the solutions you've heard today on this call. They are all interconnected, interdisciplinary, collaborative. And when I say wicked, I use the definition, the shade of definition as fierce. There are fierce reasons, unsettling reasons, and complex reasons and situations of why we have gotten to where we are in environmental issues, water pollution, air pollution, climate change in general. And it is going to require fierce interdisciplinary solutions. And so where I originally, and still might, would like to create more, and I do say urban farms, because where my schools are and where I live is a very developed, dense, populated city that does not have as much open green space. We're starting to create more of it. But when I see that all of the solutions that everyone is doing here is having, it makes me think about where the Poppies Grow Farm can go. And so my call to action for you guys is not necessarily for me. I would say that the work that I get to do with my schools only happens because of the partnerships and the communities around me. And so where you are in your space, my call to action for you would be to connect to your local schools and introduce the work that you're doing with them. And if you are already doing that, do more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tashanda. I kind of disappeared for a minute. Thank you so much for your heart and for your tears and for your vulnerability, as always. And I'd like to pass it on to, last but not least, our beautiful Vel to share with us.
My internet video is down, so that's why you don't see my face, but you see a picture of me here, the Vel Scott's Healthy You. I'm Vel Scott, and I'm in Cleveland, Ohio on this cold, cold day, and I am so delighted to be a part of the Women's Earth Alliance. It's so interesting, as I was listening to everyone, my sisters from all around the world, I knew that you Weir sisters were out there many years ago. And I say that because some of you might remember the Chicago Defender, the Bud Billiken. There was a Bud Billiken column where you had international friends, and this was for kids, teenagers, and young people could sign on, and you could meet people all over the world. And I had pen pals in Ghana and all over West Africa. So to fast forward now to 2023, the 20th, almost 24, and have a group of Weir sisters here, I'm just honored again. I am the co-founder of New Image Life Skills Academy, the Vel Scott's Healthy You. And what I do, I still do, is I travel throughout our community, throughout our city, around the country, meeting people who enjoy living life to the fullest and the healthiest lives that they can. It's one of the things that knowing people and being able to share experiences is something that I've just been so very fortunate to be able to do. As a youngster with my father, I traveled all through the deltas of Mississippi, and we grew up in farming land. So it's coming full circle again. I never dreamed that after leaving the Delta, going to California, and then coming to Cleveland, then I would be digging in the dirt or even teaching people how to plant, grow, and to take care of their bodies through what they ate. But you never know what's going to happen. So what I do is I actually share knowledge, being able to travel, having the opportunity to travel locally, to travel abroad, and to see how people live in different parts of the world. Lets me know too that there's a commonality there. There's that thread of health and wellness, that everybody wants to live better. Everybody wants to have a healthier life. So in doing those travels through Douala, through Senegal, through Mali, through Lagos, through Liberia, and then Indonesia, and hearing the sisters here from some of these countries, it just brings back warm memories to me. What I actually, myself and others in the Vel Scott's Healthy You group do is we actually teach people or share with them to start where you are. People want to know, well, how do you get started in growing your own food? How do you get started in doing a plant-based lifestyle? And the simple answer is you start where you are. We meet people where they are. To be able to grow, to be able to, if you can't grow your food, we are fortunate that we have a couple of acres of land in the heart of Cleveland's University Circle area. And that area is our cultural area. That's where the world-renowned Cleveland Museum of Art is. That's where the Severance Hall is. That's where many of the institutions and things that people come to Cleveland to see are located. We're a stone's throw from the world-renowned Cleveland Clinic. So we have so many we have access to wonderful health care, but having that access does not mean that those of us who are in underserved communities receive that kind of health care. So part of our mission is to gather people together at homes. We do the old-fashioned way like they did many years ago. We have an after-church social where we can talk about eating. We can talk about the social determinants of health, which is such a buzzword now. And what does that mean to us? That means that we are still at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to health and wellness. So we have cooking classes. We have a high tunnel on our land where we teach people how to grow, and we grow culturally relevant food. We tell people, sure, you don't have to always grow your food. You can purchase your food. Those are people who live in senior buildings or who live in apartment buildings where you don't have access to land. We have classes that show you how to do windowsill growing, pot growing. And at the end of our growing season, along with the abundant things that we do, we also have a day where people who have grown things in their windowsills, in their pots, to come out to the garden. We have a cook-off. We have all kinds of what I call global soul food. And it's plant-based. When people come who've not visited us before, they want to know, where's the chicken? Where's the beef? Where's ham? Where's the turkey? Where's the fish? We tell them, well, we don't know where they are, but we are all plant-based here. And we want you to taste the food and then actually see what you think. And once they begin to taste, well, the mushrooms taste like meat. The turnips and mustard taste like you cook them with a piece of salt pork in them. So we haven't seen salt pork in 30 years here in Cleveland. We don't know what you're talking about. But what we have a beautiful, bountiful herb garden. So our call to action is actually to get people back to basics. This past year, we did a canning class. And as someone mentioned in their presentation earlier, that when you start talking about food preservation, that most people think about frozen food. Well, coming from the South, being born in Mississippi, canning was a thing that my grandparents, everybody in our community did. Chow chow, and I don't know if any of you know what a chow chow is that you make, that you cook with your greens. We made our own hot sauce, sauerkraut. The things now that we're talking about that it's good for the gut are things that we were growing at that time. And one of the things that we grow in the garden here, which we do a lot of, and it's called the superfoods now. We grow a ton of collards, turnips, cabbage, mustards, dandelion greens, carrots, beets, sweet potatoes. And it's surprising that what's new, that so many, because our community is an older community. We have some younger people, but mainly our age range in the community. I'd say our seniors from say 50 to maybe 70. And we're surrounded in this Fairfax University Circle area by at least 5 high-rise buildings that seniors live in. So we have sort of a built-in community when we not only do the classes at the garden, but we even take some of our things. This is where our windowsill and our container garden comes into play, because some of the seniors can't get out, although we've built raised beds. So if you're wheelchair bound, you certainly can come, or if you have a vision problem. We've also collaborated with the Sight Center, where people who have limited vision can come and find out, can actually braille. We have someone that does sign language. We accommodate people that have so-called health opportunities. We don't call them challenges. We call them health opportunities because they're things that we can work around. So that's actually our vision, is to gather the people, go to the people that can't come to us, provide resources for those who can, by ramps and things in the garden, the raised beds, so that we can accommodate everyone in our community. And not only the raised beds for the seniors, but we are also surrounded by 3 schools, 1 high school and 2 elementary schools. So we have the full gamut there. We call it the Miracle Village, because we have the seniors that come, and sometimes they'll tell stories about growing up, to the nursery school kids, to the elementary school kids. And all of this, everything that we do is centered around food. We call it Vel's Global Soul Food. And soul food is not in the typical language that maybe you think about it, that it's unhealthy, but soul food, we talk about greens and beans. We hear a lot about the indigenous food. We never called our food the indigenous food because we were Southerners. We just called it down home food, real food, whole food. And that's one of the things that we have built our reputation on, is that there are food banks here that supply a lot of our families in the senior buildings and in the schools with food from the food bank. The question comes up, what do we do with the pumpkins? What do we do with the squash? What do we do with the bok choy that we're not familiar with, a lot of us, or Swiss chard, or rutabaga, or turnip bottoms? So what we do is during the summer months, spring, fall of the year, we have an open kitchen style in our garden. We have a huge platform where we can accommodate a couple of hundred people. And we do a food demonstration, again, coming from a nightclub background. There's always music involved in whatever I do. We never have an event without having music, someone singing, there's a band in some way. In the evenings, there's lights. You could say that you think you were in a nightclub if you came by one evening at dusk, because we've got our stage, our pavilion lit up. We've got a band out there, we've got music, but we're getting our message over that you don't have to be wealthy in order to eat healthy. We've got food from the garden. We have people from the community, and we're meeting these people where they are, and changes are being made on a gradual basis. So that's one of the things that we pride ourselves with, that we meet our community where we are, that yes, gentrification, it has hit us. That's actually a fact, but it does not limit us from doing the things that we do. It does not limit us from keeping our community trash-free, clean-free. We're directly across the street from a mosque. So on Friday, their holy day, they have food. We set up our food, and it's actually, it becomes a global soul day. So one of the things that we could all use support in is information. That's sort of lacking, and maybe not in some communities, but in our communities, people knowing what's going on. We still don't have a lot of internet connections in some parts of the inner city where we are. So we do what they call doorknob. We have doorknobs. We have foot soldiers, people who go door to door with flyers and word of mouth to let people know, this is what we're going to do. When are you going to start planning? And a lot of the people who are older and from the South say, well, it's about time we start planning because it's May 30th. The sun is set at a certain time, and it's a good time to turn the soil over. So those are the things that we have access to. We have a lot of resources from various seniors and various people, ethnicities in the community. Very close to us is a large German population, and sometimes some of them, and a Puerto Rican community, which is just across the bridge from us. Many times we get together and we'll have whatever socials we have in the garden in the evening, and bring the culturally relevant food, which I always encourage people to not say that you should not have meat protein, but we talk a lot about non-meat protein, plant-based food. And on that subject, this past year, for the first time, the Vel Scott's Healthy You brought a summit in, brought in 3 well-known Black cardiologists from around the country to speak about the benefits of plant-based eating. It was the first time that this had been done. And we had almost 250 people there, which I thought was huge for a community that's skeptical still about you have to have dairy, you have to have this, and we don't promote what you eat. We just give you evidence-based information that we get as we travel, as I study, and as I find out better ways to help us to preserve our health. Here in Cleveland, like I'm sure in many major American cities, heart disease and cancer, run rampant in our communities. So those are the things that we try and address, and using food as a catalyst. So again, we are happy. I am happy to have been a part of the WIA sisterhood, and hopefully that some of these relationships will last for years to come. So I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Vel, for sharing your beautiful story and the powerful work you're doing in your community. I realize we've gone over time, almost 45 minutes, so I appreciate everybody's patience as we've gone through today's speakers. It's really hard to talk about your work in 5 minutes, so I completely understand, and I appreciate the leaders for taking the space that you needed to share your story today. And just to be able to finish out today's call, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And to our speakers today, especially, we appreciate your collaboration. And we hope to see you all in our next solution series on healing with the land for women's health equity. With that, I'd like to close today's call. Please make sure to register and support our work. I hope to see you all tomorrow for the beautiful and powerful work that will be shared on healing with the land for women's health equity. Thank you so much and have a great day.